Today I'm gonna be giving you guys 5 tips that's gonna make you a lot more efficient at making beats. At least this is what worked for me, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first tip on the list is to have a startup project. So whenever you open up FL Studio or Ableton or Logic or whatever, it's gonna open up with all the effects and all the sounds and settings that you always use, so you don't have to open anything or change anything every time you make a beat. So this is my startup template on FL Studio. I just have on the master a soft clipper with these settings and a parametric EQ like this right here. I like how it sounds, so I just have it on there always. And then also on the first mixer bus, I have an EQ that takes out the lows. So if I'm using a loop, then I just throw the loop onto mixer bus 1 and then it just cuts out the lows for me. The only other thing I have is a empty sampler with just a basic clap pattern, just 4 bars long, because I usually use that clap pattern in basically all my beats, so I don't have to do that every single time. So by using these startup templates right here, it's just gonna save you so much time, because imagine if you're making 10,000 beats in your lifetime and it takes half a minute every beat to open up all these plugins and all these effects. I'll put it right here on the screen, how much time it actually is. You know, it's not like immediately that you're gonna waste this time, but it's just over time, it's just gonna build up and build up and build up, and it's gonna be annoying to open up those sounds. So I definitely 100% recommend that you do this right here. I'm gonna leave a little tutorial right up here so you can check out for yourself how to do it. You just have to know how to navigate in your folders in your operating system. So not too hard at all. Everybody can do it, I promise. That leads me on to number 2. And that is to, before you make a beat, have a little plan up in your head of what type of beat you're gonna make. Either a little idea, or I don't know, maybe you wanna make like a Yeet type beat or a Drake type beat. Maybe you wanna do a specific tempo or a specific instrument that you wanna use. For me, this can change the amount of time I've spent on a beat from 1 hour to 16 minutes sometimes. Sometimes those 16-minute beats, they are a lot better than the 1-hour beats. So I try to at least have a little bit of a strategy whenever I go into making a beat. So I just don't end up stranded on a melody that I don't like. You could even have a list of things that you could start out with when making a beat if you're completely blank. Have it just written down on a little notebook, and then just see, okay, what can I do for a beat today? Very simple, using this plugin right here. Okay, I'm gonna do that. And then usually I find that if I've already made one beat or multiple beats, then I have a lot more inspiration going into it rather than just starting from scratch. I'm just trying to give you all the possibilities and all the things you can do to try and make yourself a better producer and more efficient, because I believe everybody deserves to have a platinum track and a Billboard #1 and be like all the best producers. Now it's time for tip number 3. This one is to start off with a loop or a little bit of a starter. Start out with an actual idea, an actual melody that you can just go off of and just make whatever you want. I feel like my beats sometimes turn out a lot better when I'm making it with somebody else, or if you're completely lost in the sauce and have beat block and all that type of stuff, then it can also be a very nice way to just start some beats even though you have 0 inspiration. Also, this takes a lot less time than just starting from scratch, because if you start with a basic melody or just a whole loop, then you can make beats in 5 minutes if you want to. And I know everybody's using loops, but you could also just, like I said earlier, try to add stuff on top of the loops instead of just using the loops. So that's what I'm gonna show you right now. I'm gonna use one of my own loops that I made recently. Okay, now I'm just gonna add some drums, and maybe I'm gonna add some more melody layers later, but this is already fire. It only took 20 minutes, and I've actually been in this FL Studio for 10 minutes or something, so that's pretty fire. Okay, so this leads me to the next tip on the list, and that is to stop overthinking about everything and stop thinking about every detail and every beat having to be perfect. Because I have I don't know how many beats, 1,000 beats, and 70% of them I've not used for anything at all. So what point is there to spend an extra 20 minutes on perfecting a beat when you're just not gonna use it anyways? Most of the time, if you're just making quick beats, just gotta not think too much about that beat. You just gotta place the notes down where you think it will sound good, and then if it sounds good, keep it. If it doesn't sound good, cut it out. Nothing will ever be perfect. That's one thing that you gotta know, is that nothing will ever be perfect. You could always listen to a beat and find something that you would like to have been different. Even if you change the stuff, you'll find more stuff when you've changed it later. If you're gonna use this beat at some point, and if you're gonna like sell it to somebody, or if an artist is gonna rap or sing on it, then you can at that point perfect it. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. You just need to get the idea out. That's the main thing. Okay, that was a lot of talking, but there's still one more thing left on the menu, and this is again a little more like a practical tip, and that is to limit the amount of sounds that you're using. The first thing is to limit the amount of sounds you're going to use. So you might only want to use 4 melodies for a beat, or 5 drum sounds, or 3 drum sounds. This will help you make your beats much more simple and much more like rappable. And it will also help you spend a lot less time on making these beats, because if you're sitting there adding 10 percussion sounds to every beat and making an automation clip that goes like, then it's gonna like take 10 minutes extra to do that. And if you just stick to like 5 sounds max, then it's just gonna be a lot easier and a lot simpler, and might even sound better, because sometimes you can't overcomplicate your beats. I do that all the time, and I try to avoid it, but sometimes it's just too fun to add those sounds. And then the second thing I was talking about, that is to limit the sounds that you're using. So maybe you only want to use sounds from a specific drum kit or from a specific plugin. This is going to help you so much in the way that like now you're not going to spend all the time looking for the right snare or the right hi-hat. What I've realized recently is that the specific sample of the hi-hat or the snare or the clap doesn't really matter too much, especially if it's in a song where there's lyrics on top or rap or singing. It just needs to be good enough. I think that was it for all the tips. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you learned something. If you did, leave a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Peace out.